Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Work at Home Rockstar podcast. I'm excited for today's guest. He is the co-founder of Better Than Rich. Cool name. And what he does is he helps entrepreneurs transition from overwhelmed operators to true business owners using streamlined systems, delegating to a team of virtual assistants, and implementing automation. So I'm super excited to be rocking out today with Mike Abramowitz. Did I get it right?
Hey, you got it right. Thanks for having me here, Tim.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. Are you ready to rock?
I'm ready to rock, man. Let's do it. The crowd's waiting. Yeah.
The crowd is waiting. Right on. So we always start off here in a good note. So tell me a story of success in your business that we can be inspired by.
Story of success. Well, I was this is the bad note slash good note. The good note is I was able to, my son was born at 1 pound, 4 ounces, and we were in the hospital with him for 254 days, so 8.5 months.
Wow.
And during that time, my wife became a full-time medical mom, and I was able to have my business run without me during that time frame and still produce $250,000 in revenue, six figures in profits while we were in the NICU with him for 254 days. And when I got out of the hospital, I was able to turn that really tough season into a gift where my wife was able to leave her corporate position to become a full-time medical mom. And I was able to teach other people, other business owners, how to do what I did, which is to build a business that had systems and team and tech that can buy back my time. So that way I could spend that time on what mattered most to me, which is being present with the family. And now I've been able to help hundreds of other business owners do the exact same, which is to help them buy back time from their business. So I would say it's kind of it's everything that I've been doing for the last few years, which is to help myself and also my fellow business owners be able to free themselves up from the business, so they're no longer the bottlenecks, and they could have a business system that can create predictable results.
Wow, Mike, that's amazing. Uh, Question, did did all these systems and all that stuff, did that come out of like necessity because you had to be in the hospital, or was that already something that you were doing and you just sort of leveraged it?
It's a good question. So the without getting into all the weeds of everything, I'll give a short rundown of the story. So just so there's a little bit of context, and then you can ask like the specifics. But the short of
Right.
it is, um, I wanted to retire early. So like I tried to get ahead in life.
Hmm.
And so I bought my first house when I was 20. I had three rental properties by the time I graduated college. But because I was married to my business, I was in a relationship 7 years and it ended because I was so immersed into the business. So when I met my now wife and we started dating in 2014, I said, I really need to like remove myself from the business and work from home and be more present father and a husband. So I hired a business coach. He had an experience in India scaling a company from 6 million to 30 million and had a team of 1,400. So when he came back to the States, he started teaching business owners how to corporatize their business. I was his first client and his student in 2016. So from 2016 through really COVID, it was all building these systems, offshore virtual assistants, team technology, installing CRM and learning management softwares, all these things that were really taboo in direct sales industry that I was in. But we started putting all those things in place. And then COVID hit and it was like, boom, all systems go. We provided over 1,000 jobs. We did $2.5 million in sales that year. We were doing $100,000 sales weeks. I took an 18-day road trip. Like it was unbelievable. And then the circumstance happened with my son. I was able to completely remove myself from the business and still have the business run in a profitable fashion without me there. And we still produce great results. And that's kind of like the short version of the origin
Yeah.
that got me to be able to remove myself
Yeah. Okay. We're on. So yeah. So you were already on the path, and which is great. I mean, that means that,
without knowing the
yeah.
circumstances. Yeah, exactly.
So you kind of had got a bit of a test, test
Yeah,
of what you had been doing to see if it actually would work, and it did, right?
correct. That's exactly
That's
right.
awesome. Wow. Okay. Well, so now along with the good notes, sometimes things don't go as planned. So, there must have been some hiccups going on during that time. I'm wondering, can you share with us some things that didn't go as planned and how we could recover from it if it happens to us?
Well, Absolutely. Some of I call it my valley of my 20s. So this is what I always share is like, it sounds great with the buying houses and stuff. So mom passed when I was 20 and I used her life insurance money to buy my second home, my first home when I was 20 and my second home at 22. I was working with Cutco kitchen knives, selling Cutco through college, paid my way through college and I advanced into management. But then 2008 was when I got crushed. So the market collapsed and I lost all three properties. I was negative $130,000 in debt. I had a 400 credit score and I was near bankrupt. So it was a really tough season. And then, like I mentioned, the relationship ended. I had unhealthy eating habits. Like I didn't really want to
Wow.
get off the couch. Like it was a really, really challenging season. And all I could do was just try to work my way out of it. I was making like 50 to 75,000 a year, but it was like 24/7. It wasn't like a 9 to 5. It was like 24/7 every day on call, answering my phone, trying to like lock down clients and sell Cutco. I was working on recruiting all my sales team and then coaching my sales reps. It was just like I was constantly the bottleneck of everything. And it made it challenging to create anything that could be sustainable beyond that season. So it was really challenging.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, wow, that is challenging. I like the way you keep using the word season. That's I think that's valuable, the way that you say that instead of, sort of just understanding that the season will end, right? And we'll end up in another season.
Yeah, so spring always follows winter, and for me, that spring was when I went to a Tony Robbins event in circa 2012. I walked across fire. I'm a 7-time fire walker now, and when he said at that event, "My mess is my message," I realized all of the stuff I was going through in my 20s. I was like, man, I could turn this into a gift and teach other people how to, do something different. So during that chapter, in that season of life, when I was planting seeds for my spring, I spent 300 hours speaking to the school district in Pinellas County, Florida, to teach what is my mess and what is my message and help me craft that. And that turned into my first book, Grab Tomorrow, Your Best Year Ever, which led to 9 books. And I was speaking and writing and doing like book signing. It was like awesome. It was a really great season, but it didn't give me time freedom. I was still working my tail off in my Cutco office business, my direct sales business. Now I just added this other layer of complexity of writing and speaking to the mix. So that's when I hired my business coach. I was like, all right, what I'm doing is it's just not sustainable. All I'm doing is just still exchanging time for money.
Wow. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the band then. So, like, you mentioned a coach and you're also like training and hiring sales reps. Like, what is it that's important to you when you think about, surrounding yourself with the right people?
Well, during my career with direct sales and after 20 years, I ended up training over 5,000 people how to sell the product line that produced just under $20 million in sales. So I have a lot of experience with interviewing and hiring and training and recruiting. When it came to bringing on my like internal staff and my internal team, that was a similar strategy, but slightly different. So I would put processes in place where what we have done in the past was we would run private one-on-ones as a screening process. First, it would be a phone call. Then it would be a private one-on-one, typically in our office. That's switched to Zoom. And then it would be a group evaluation with qualified candidates to see who's the most qualified, and then a private one-on-one to make a final decision. There's a very lengthy process of recruiting and finding the right people. So I took a version of that and systemized having them fill out a form, having them watch a video, having them send information to me, giving like test projects. So that way I can see who was most qualified, who were most committed to the process, and I would pay them for the test project. From that pool of candidates, that's who I would bring onto my band. So I would make sure that I would qualify them and pre-qualify them before I even spent time with them. Then I would spend time with them. So that way I was only spending my time with the most qualified, most committed candidates. And that's how I built my initial team. I had a team of maybe 15 to 16 individuals that were not local, just virtual assistants, some stateside, some offshore. And I've had a lot of growing pains in there. I think it's important just to kind of capture, Tim. Like I
Yeah.
went to Fiverr and Upwork initially to try to find this band, these people. But the challenge was it took me so much time to find qualified people who are reliable, who could work, who were, that was a little bit of a challenge, but it was low cost. So then I went full tilt the other way where I paid an agency $2,500 to find me a qualified, talented person, but I didn't have like processes and systems in place for that person. So I had paid all this money, but they weren't doing a lot of the stuff. And then
Yeah.
eventually this person was bottlenecked with 15 to 16 different projects and tasks that I had to do. So then I went to Indeed and built out this process to hire this internal staff. So there's a lot of growing pains that came with adding talent to my organization for me to be able to be freed up so I can again buy back my time so I can spend my time on sales, strategy, strategic partnerships, brand development. Like these are the types of things, building more verticals, higher ticket offerings. Like those are the types of things that I needed to be spending my time on, and I couldn't be spending my time on all the administrative or some of those lower value tasks that I could pay someone else to do.
Wow. Right on. And I do like that story because it does demonstrate how much actual thought put into finding people. Because I know that when you go to Upwork and it just looks like it's easy to find somebody. Oh, look at all these qualified people, and it ends up being a little bit more challenging than that, right? And even going to an agency still was a bit of a challenge. So you really do have to have some really good onboarding and selection processes in place. And it sounds like you figured that out eventually, right?
Yeah, eventually, correct. So it's made a world of a difference. I mean, now with our Better Than Rich company, we just took a lot of what I did, a lot of the experience from my business partner. He was, by the way, he was my coach, and now he's my business partner. So that was
Oh,
the little piece of that story. So that's another part of my band. He's a big part of my band because on September 10th, 2021, when we got out of the hospital, I called him as my coach and I said, "Do you think we teach people how to do this?" He said, "Let's find out." So that was the birthplace of what we're doing. And now we have a team of 35 to 40 people on our team. And since 2021 in the fall of building out what we are doing now and helping business owners buy back time, it's been really an amazing journey. But I think that for somebody listening, the most important part of surrounding yourself around really good people is to know what are your standards, what are those expectations, because
hmm.
people will fall and rise to those standards and to those expectations. People like working for us because we have this structured flexibility. It's like, hey, you could work from home and we have these parameters, we have these meeting cadences, we have this structured, flexible environment with standards and expectations. It's not just like show up and work whenever you want. And I think that's sometimes what the business owner neglects to do because they're like, oh, they'll just work. I trust them that they'll get their stuff done.
Mm.
So you want to have high quality talent, raising them in a healthy environment. That's one of the things that's important.
Yeah, wow. Well, and people just generally are contradictions. Like we want freedom and we also want structure at the
Yeah.
same time, right? And so, you've got it nailed. I think you've got to have something that's people understand what they're doing because I think that's a big problem in a lot of situations where you're trying to bring on people into your team. You're not really super clear about what they're supposed to be doing, right? And then you got like people just that's not my job type people, right?
Yeah.
Versus the other part of it is that, yeah, I think really high talent people like the flexibility. They want to be productive and they like to be able to do it on their own time as well, too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's part of that onboarding process is getting clear of like what are their expectations too. It's like what would make this an awesome place for you to work? Like I don't want to go through all this onboarding and interviewing and training and through the entire process with you and then you are it's almost like let's get married, but you're also going to start dating other people on the side. It's like
Oh
I don't want
yeah.
to get married and you're dating other people. It's like I want you to be committed to me. I want to be committed to you. Let's make sure that our values are in check, and all those expectations are clear, cards on the table. What are all the advancement opportunities? What are the opportunities for compensation? What are the opportunities for growth, personal growth and professional growth? Like I want to make sure they know all of that we're going to offer to them, which means I have to get clear as the business owner of what am I offering to these individuals? And
Yeah.
it's important because even if someone is starting at admin, well, they could eventually climb up to be like an account manager where they have a team of admin underneath them, as an example. And then from like an account manager, then maybe we could give them coaching on specialized skills. So there's opportunities for them to grow within the company. I think it's really important to note that. I also think it's really important to note that if someone's a solopreneur and they're just by themselves right now, that they should get a resource called Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. It's a fantastic playbook. Highly recommend it. And he talks about the replacement ladder being administrative is the first thing to offload, then marketing and client success or fulfillment, those two interchange, then sales, then leadership. It's a really, really great resource to help you start getting in the mind of what can be delegated. And one of the things that I could do it at the end, but I have a gift that I'll give to people who maybe they don't want to take the time to read, a 250 or 300 page book. I created a workbook that can really support these business owners and just go through the workbook to figure out what are their low value activities, what is their dollar per hour wage, what is their high value activities that they could do with that time, how they could offload some of those low value tasks and replace it with high value. And we could get to that at the end, but I just want to make sure make that available as a resource for some people who want it.
Nice. I was going to mention that. So Dan Martell is actually from Moncton. I live in Moncton. This is
Oh, nice. Oh, super impressive.
yeah, it was super impressive. I actually listened to the audiobook of it too, and it was like, wow, this is a really, really good book. And I've mentioned it a few times too. It's like not just because he's from my hometown.
Yeah,
Actually, it's a really good book.
it
So it's
is. It
cool.
is fantastic.
So let's talk a little bit about the keeping the hat full, the cash flow situation here, because of course, all this is going to take time, but it's also going to take some money too. And how do you sort of, you know, make sure that you're going to make more money than you're spending?
Well, it's a good question. Number one is every single month I look at dollars in and I look at dollars out. So every single month I've done this I used to hire someone to do the bookkeeping and then eventually I took it over because it was like I was being not reckless, but because I wasn't the one manually doing the numbers, I was
Mhm.
like, all right, I'm being, I want to be a little bit more cognizant of dollars in versus dollars out. I took it over. I hired someone in 2014. I took it over 2017. I did it myself all the way up until like 2023 in the summer. I finally let go of it because I was like, all right, somebody else could do this for me. But dollars in versus dollars out is really critical for a business owner. Every single dollar. That's number one. As far as cash flow, when my business partner and we use other people's money all the time. And
Hmm.
OPM, all right. So other people's money, we sell the thing and then use the money that they're paying us from the pre-sale to fund the thing. So I'll give you a few examples here. Number one, when we partnered up September 2021, we said, let's host an event. So great. We posted, we decided to do our first coming out party of an event. We called it Finding Your Purpose. We thought this is what the marketplace wanted to learn. So we booked a thing in Mexico, but we didn't book it yet. We just said we're doing something in Mexico. As soon as we sold the first ticket for $5,000, we took the $5,000 and booked the Airbnb in Mexico.
Nice.
Then we sold the next one, $5,000. Next one, we ended up filling the space with our goal of 20 people. So we're selling and marketing and filling up the space. We filled up the space with our 20 people using their money to fund the experience. And on the back end, while we had them there, we said, okay, maybe there's an offer here for a continued service on the other end. The challenge was there wasn't a good offer on the back end of finding your purpose because everyone that was there was like, this was amazing. We had an unbelievable experience. They feel so fulfilled, but they're like, I don't have time. I got to go back to my business. So then we did another event in March 2022 called Business Mastery. Same thing, same strategy, filled the space, 20 people, $5,000 a pop. On the other end, had an offer. That offer on the other end was, can my virtual assistants do work for you? I was like, let's find out. So I made a beta test offer. I said, I'll do this with 5 of you. 10 of them raised their hands. I was like, all right, let's find out if my virtual assistants can work for you at a very reduced rate. That was the starting place of our AI powered virtual assistant services that we now have like 70 clients using. But that's where it started. It was like, let's just find out. And they paid like a little bit, but we were always using their other people's money to fund. And then we had 10 grand saved from all of this. We said, let's take this 10, invest it, and turn it into 30. How could we do it? We paid for click funnels and sales pages. And we built a masterclass and started talking and teaching and doing guesting. And we built a mini course on the back end of this. We filled it with 106 people. It was 5 days, 1 hour a day. 106 people bought it for $29. And on the
Wow.
back end, had a higher ticket offer for a $5,000 to $10,000 offer called operator to owner. And we had 31 people sign up out of the 106 for operator to owner. And that was going into 2023. So this is just an idea of leveraging other people's money, but that's not just taking their money, it's providing a tremendous amount of value. So that way they want to continue to create a partnership with you and generate MRR, monthly recurring revenue. So we created products that allow for monthly recurring revenue to come in, and now we're in a position we did right at 200K our first year, which was 2022, and then 2023 last year we did right at 600K, and right
Wow.
now just through March. We're pacing steadily towards seven figures for this year so far, as long as we keep the trajectory up the way we are. So, and we created a foundation of somewhere around 50 to 65,000 in monthly recurring revenue, and that's the name of the game. So now that we have like that baseline, now it's just adding extra logs in that fire to get it to 100K per month.
Hi, it's Mark Mawhinney from Natural Born Coaches, and I want to give two very big thumbs up to Tim Melanson and his Creative Crew agency. I have been using them for a long time, and I am 100% happy. They get the job done right, they're fast, and they let me focus on my business. I don't have to worry about anything. So again, I want to give them two very big thumbs up. I have no problem recommending them. I don't give testimonials for everyone because my name is attached to it, but I gladly do so for Tim and the Creative Crew agency. So use them, you won't regret it, and good luck.
Wow, I love that. And I think that there's like a lot of psychological value to doing it that way as well. Like number one is that when somebody like oftentimes or sometimes someone can spend tons of time trying to build something before they sell it and then find out that nobody wants it. So in your way, you're like, okay, well, if someone pays me the money for it, well, then I know that this is something that's valuable. I know I can sell this, so it gives you a little bit more proof of concept. So that like I think that that's amazing. But also having a deadline too. Now you've just sold something. They paid money for it, and you have a date, right? That they've just paid for. So you're gonna, okay, I got to work now to get that because people do like deadlines. I think that work tends to expand to the time you give it to get done, right?
Oh, absolutely. And that's why you got to have fans, right? The marketing, right? You got to double down on that and really making sure by the way, Alex Hormozi, $100 million leads, fantastic book, just leveraging your warm personal networks with one-to-one and one-to-many, and then doing cold. We still to this day, we barely do any cold marketing. Other than like podcast guesting, but it's still warm. I mean, we are very much still on. We will be a seven-figure company with zero ad spend or cold marketing. It's all been organic through adding value to the marketplace through warm networks.
Wow. Yeah, I've never spent any money on ads in my business as well, and I've been
And I'm
working
not
from
saying
home for
it's
15
the
years.
way. I'm not saying it's
No.
the way, but I think it's important for someone to know like cash flow, as long as you're adding value and solving problems in the marketplace, you can add value and leverage other people's money to fund the business without spending and over leveraging yourself too much, is at least what we've realized with our current business Better Than Rich, and also what I did as indirect sales. Like I made money when they sold the product line. So the more we sell, the more money I would make. So I would make sure that the business decisions I was making on hiring this talent, I would come up with compensation structures that were directly correlated to profits. I wouldn't
Yeah.
pay people by the hour. It wasn't like, I'm going to pay you a certain amount of money, but you're going to make way more off of an incentive structure when I make more money. It was almost like a profit share, but not like a specific profit share.
Yeah, I love that. Right on. So let's talk a little bit about, I mean, you've been working from home for quite a while now. So there are some challenges to your jam room, to the places where you find in your house to work. Tell me something about that.
Well, I think having a sacred space is important. So I have my home office, and I think having that protected space is important, but also having the boundaries of time is really important. So it was a ramp to get to where I'm at now, but where I'm at now is 9 to 4 Tuesday, with Wednesday, Thursday, and then 9 to 2 on Friday. That is protected time where I work in the business. That's where people can hop on my calendar. I have different events for people to book with me. That is intentional time. Monday is personal day. So Monday's personal day where I could do whatever the hell I want. If I want to work on strategy, if I want to work on myself, if I did yesterday, I rented a Harley and that's why I got so sunburned, rode up the coast here in Florida. Whatever I want to do. Mornings are my personal time. I usually dedicate that time to taking care of our son and taking him to school. He's been thriving recently, so he's doing awesome. He's 3. Evenings are with the family. Saturday, I give my wife a day to where I hang out with my son. I have a daddy day with my son and give her a little bit of a break. And Sundays, we do a family day. We just had our newborn. She's 3 months old now, so it's kind of through a little bit of a wrinkle, but that was the schedule. So I created these boundaries around that and built a ramp towards that to have personal time and have these blocks of times where I'm working on the business versus working in the business versus working with myself. And then I created communication guidelines around this. So that way, everyone in my life knows this is when I'm available and this is when I'm not. It's interesting. No one interrupts me on Mondays. Why? Because they know I'm not available. I come back to my Slack. I come back to my inboxes, and I'm like, okay, cool. Then I have communication guidelines in place for each of those as well. But I think it's important for someone to know if you want to work from home and want to make sure that you're not working 24/7, you quit the 9 to 5 to work 24/7, having those boundaries in place is going to be really, really important, not just for space, but also time.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so then let's start at the beginning. Like, let's just say that you've realized you've listened to this podcast and you're like, okay, I need to create some boundaries in my life, and these are my hours now. I assume that people are not going to get it right away. So
Correct.
what do you do to make sure that you can stick to that without, like, maybe offending everybody in your life?
Correct. So it's one conversation at a time and one technology at a time. So you could start with your inbox. If you don't have a virtual assistant managing your inbox for you, which I recommend, we can have a conversation around it. But the number one is just use your out of office reply, right?
Okay.
That's something simple. I'm not available right now. Just like you go on vacation. If you have a doctor's appointment, you go on vacation. How does somebody set up their communication? I'm not available. Your phone is on airplane mode. The moment that you respond or pick up is the moment you are sending a message to the other person that you're available. So if we react, we are letting them know I'm available. If we don't react, we're not available. However, we don't want to lose business. So therefore, if prospects or clients or are trying to get your attention, you want to make sure there's some sort of system in place where when they try to get your attention, ideally it's not live calls. So if you are in a position where all of your communication is through live calls, they call me, they get my attention. I think about a real estate agent. It's like they call me to get my attention. You got to create a buffer around that. Make sure you hire an assistant that can answer that call for you. There's some sort of buffer there. You don't want to lose business here, but the moment you pick up the phone during that protected time is the moment that person knows that you are available. I highly recommend you got to have some sort of rigidity with these boundaries. And if someone is out of bounds, you got to let them know they're out of bounds the next conversation you have with them, not that conversation. So if someone calls me on a Monday, I just don't pick up. I just don't pick up.
Yeah. 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 Me
I
too.
mean, it's
Yeah.
if you have space in the schedule in the mornings, if someone tries to call, I just don't answer. And you're like, oh, but Mike, what if you miss out on lose on something? The bigger thing is if I lose that protected space of working on the business, I'm going to miss out on the strategy, the strategic partnerships, the sales, the other opportunities, the lifestyle, the quality time with my wife and my kids and things that are most important to me. Because whenever we say yes to one thing, we're saying no to something else. So if we're saying yes to picking up the phone, we're saying no to being present with whatever it is that we initially were going to do. So we got to keep that in mind. We don't want to lose things, but we also want to make sure we're gaining things as well. That's aimless scrolling on social media stuff. Create boundaries around that shit too. I mean, just it's pretty much anything. That's okay. If you want to scroll and do social media, just do it at a designated time. It's like, this is the only time. gaps are traps. I mean, shoot, if you fill a gap, you're like, oh, I got 15 minutes. Let me just wait till my next meeting. It's like, there could be a productivity thing that you could do during those 15 minutes if it's designed correctly. I could talk about this a lot,
Oh yeah.
but I just think it's important, just more of a psychological shift that someone has to have when you're working from home to avoid working, quote unquote, working all the time and being in reaction mode. Be productive, be proactive during set times. And then the other times that you're not working in the business, have designated time where you're working on the business, where you're not working on the business or in the business, then you are off. What does off mean? You're working on relationships, you're working on yourself, you're working on fun, your F's, your faith, your family, your fun, your friends, those things that are important to your fitness. On business, in business, your F's, right? That
Love
we
it,
want.
Mike.
Yeah.
Love it. And you know what I can add to that is that I agree with everything you say and actually implemented it. And on the occasions when I was like, oh, I really want this client, maybe I'll answer now. Uh, those clients end up being a real big pain in the butt because if they can't handle, not having a phone call on your sacred time or whatever that happens to be, like just for the sales call, whole project is going to end up being on that day. A bit of an exaggeration, but really, if they can't handle working within your time, then it's probably going to end up bleeding into your time the entire time through the project. So,
Yeah.
you probably don't want that client. Wouldn't it be better to save that space for a client that can work with you during your work time, right?
100%. Yeah. It's painful. Like it stings. I just quote unquote fired a client. Like we just fired a client, $8,000. It's just like, we could not, I took my family. I was out of town for a day. I communicated I was out. She's like, you didn't respond. You were going to hold me accountable and then you weren't there. I can't do this. I'm like, you're right. This was not the agreement. We established agreements, and this is someone who missed 2 coaching calls with me. So it's like they weren't following their end of the agreement, but when I wasn't at their beck and call for that one time and they stood me up twice, it's just like no deal. Here's your money back. It's not a win-win. It's either a win-win or no deal, and this is a no deal. Here's your money back. And that's okay to do. When you're in business, you can fire clients. If you have people that are not going to bring you energy, you do not need to be desperate for that money, because you're going to attract the people that you want and repel the people that you don't want when you have clarity and you understand those standards. It's tough when you're in scarcity. I was there in my 20s. Like I would say yes to anything who was going to pay me. You'll pay me, I'll do it. Yes, 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 yes. But my coach really helped me understand that every time I was saying yes to those things, I was compromising. There was that compromise, and I was out of integrity with myself, and I couldn't really lead a successful organization. And that's helped me 10x, way more than 10x, the type of results and revenue and everything that goes with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you can really start to convince yourself that when things are not working out with a certain client because of whatever, like I always just sort of go, okay, well, for some reason, the universe does not want me to be in a relationship with that client. I'm going to have to assume that there's a reason for that. And, they're not in alignment with me, and I just like let it go. But I have definitely been in that scarcity mindset as well, where, you're just getting started, you need the money, so you'll take on any client. And, I would say, to anybody who's listening, if that's how you're feeling, do it, but you'll keep in mind that you're going to learn that lesson through that client probably. So, it is what it is. Sometimes you have to just experience it for yourself to realize that a lot of these, people that have been through it are all saying the same thing. We're all saying, no, 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 no. You're going to find out that lesson, whether you find it out yourself or whether you just listen to your coach, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
Right
it's
on.
true.
So it's time for your guest solo. Tell me what's exciting in your business right now.
Well, right now we are, I alluded it before, and I'd love to give this as a gift because it's something I'm really excited about. And I know when this airs, I might not be doing it personally, but someone on my team still will be. We're doing free 90-day delegation planning sessions for market research to help us as a company figure out what are the struggles that business owners have. And in return, we're giving them a workbook and giving a 30 to 40 minute 90-day delegation planning session to help them offload all the low value tasks. So that way we can figure out how do we add value to the marketplace. So I've been doing this so far with this. Right now it's March 26th. This is what I've been doing 5 to 10 times a week, every single week of this year so far. And on the other end of it, we do have a service. Our service is AI powered virtual assistants, where we will install a team to go into somebody's business and do all of their administrative, social media, inbox management, podcast production, voice work, calendar management, data entry, CRM management. They're all powered by AI, and we will put them into someone's business if they're, depending on what their task lists and their needs are. But these delegation planning sessions that we're doing is to help the business owner figure out what is their target dollar per hour, what are the low value tasks, what are the high value tasks. Great. And then it's like, once we have that awareness, hey, our team can handle the low value for you if you're a good fit. If you're not a good fit, we won't even present it. We'll just say, hey, now that you know, let's get that stuff offloaded during the next 90 days so you could buy back your time. So that's what I'm focused on. That's what we're doing. And someone could take me up on that. It's betterthanrich.com/90-day plan, 90-day plan, betterthanrich.com/90-day plan. It's just bringing me a lot of energy to help and pick apart parts of people's businesses and just try to help them figure out these are areas that you, as the business owner, do not need to do. You got to let go of control of those things. And these are the parts of the business that need your genius, that only you can do. We got to make sure that you're dedicating that time there. So that's what I'm focused on. And that's what's been really rejuvenating me during this season right now where I'm at.
Cool. So I have a question about what that means, AI powered. Does that mean that your team installs AI tools, or they manage those tools, or it's a combination of the two? Like,
A couple of examples, like if someone needs podcast production, like our team understands AI on how to pull the podcast, make sure it's chopped up, pull the clips, create reels, captions, all of that, leveraging AI. So that way it could be done efficiently and also with quality. For inbox management, for example, they'll do my writing style and, or how to write as me and how to respond to emails in an effective way. If they're doing social media, content calendar creation using social media, any commenting or inbox or like lead generation, messaging, outbound messaging, we use AI to figure out the brand guidelines and who the avatar is that we're speaking to and writing for. And then what is the writing style that we want the business owner to be using. So that way a human is using the AI versus just plugging AI in, because AI sometimes is too robotic. So even though we could just say AI to go do all this for me without the human sometimes like vetting it or clicking some buttons or putting in the right place, sometimes the AI could be a little reckless. So that's why we say AI powered virtual assistants, because they're using AI as a tool. It's almost like having a shovel. AI is the shovel, but you need that human to make sure that the shovel is like being used effectively. And that's essentially what we created.
love it. Yeah. And that's exactly how I use it too. I would call it AI powered too, because I use AI a lot, but you're right. It doesn't do it on its own. You need that human that's going to interact. So that's really cool the way you do that, for sure. Now, another quick question. So is there like sort of like a limit of what you can like, is this just anything that a business owner has? Like, can it be as small or as big as they have, or?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, our goal is to be the provider for a business owner. Like our number one client uses 320 hours a month, Ben.
Mhm.
And like that's our goal, is to grow with a business owner. So as their tasks grow, we have a monthly subscription model with a team of 35 to 40 specialists on the back end that can handle some stuff with an account manager. So like a client just says, all right, account manager, I need my social media done. All right, account manager, I need my video editing done. All right, account manager, I need my administrative, my CRM. And it's just like a one-stop shop where the client reports to one person, but then there's a team of doers behind that account manager that is getting all of that administrative done. And that's how I operate. So like, for example, hey, account manager, me say, I want to get on podcasts, go get me on podcasts. Here's go find a list of podcast hosts that are in the niche I want to get into. Great. Somebody is doing the data entry, finding those podcast hosts. Then somebody else, go email all of these people, give them a rating and review, and go spotlight those people, give them some value, and then someone else email those hosts saying, hey, I think Mike Abramowitz should be a really good guest on the show. And that's how I'm here right now. So there's a process behind using the AI powered VAs to write and to reach out and to prospect, that buys me my time. So that way, all I'm doing is I'm showing up wherever I'm booked. So I have a team of like 14 or 15 people behind me that is managing all of my administrative, marketing, lead gen, a lot of that for me, as me, just not by me. So that way, all I'm doing is I'm doing like 90-day delegation planning sessions for market research. I'm doing podcast guesting. I have my own podcast show, and working with our top tier clients, which is what is the only place that Mike can be at the moment. So I'm spending my time in that genius. Well, I have a team around me that can support and act as me, just as good as me. And Dan Martell said in his book, 80% done by somebody else is 100% awesome. And that's essentially what I love to try to teach to as many people as possible. Build out predictable playbooks and processes, and then install AI powered VAs into your business. And you could truly buy back a lot of time and have some time freedom.
It's an excellent idea, Mike. Okay, so tell me another time, where can we find you?
I would say betterthanrich.com/90-day plan. I mean, that goes directly to me right now. I know this, it might not be directly me in the future, but it is right now. So betterthanrich.com/90-day plan. And we'd love to help wherever we can.
Awesome. Thank you so much for rocking out with me today, Mike. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Tim. I appreciate it.
Awesome. To the listeners, make sure you subscribe, rate, and comment. We'll see you next time on the Work at Home Rockstar podcast.